Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids. Today we're doing a head-to-head competition between these two knives, the original ESEE 6 and the newer ESEE 6HM. Now, I've personally never used an ESEE 6 survival knife, regardless of the make or model. I've used other ESEE knives out in the woods and I've liked them a lot, but this is basically a brand new perspective for me on both of these knives. So I thought, without having any previous experience, let's put these guys head-to-head and see which one we like more. Let's talk through some details here on the ESEE 6. End-to-end length is 11.75 inches. Your actual cutting edge is 5.75, and your blade here from the tip down to where the handle starts is 6.5 inches. We're looking at 1.56 inches from the sharpened edge up to the spine, and then your thickness on this knife is 0.188 inches. It is 1095 for your steel, and your Rockwell hardness is 55 to 57. Looking at the handle here, this is linen micarta. You can see we do have a lanyard hole down here at the end, and obviously this is the gray version, and there are lots of color options when it comes to the ESEE 6. Here's a close-up of the blade. You can see we do have that choil there, so you can sharpen all the way to the end, and then also get your finger up there if you want to do some more detail work. We also have the finger guard back here when you want to lock in and hold it like so. There's some jimping up on the top. As far as going from mild up to very aggressive, I would put this right in the middle. So if you're going to have jimping on a knife, this is pretty much how I would want it done. Sometimes you put jimping on a knife and it really serves no purpose because it's so mild, and other times it beats your hand up. So this is a nice texture, I think, for jimping on the spine of a knife. Here's a look at your sheath for the ESEE 6. It is a plastic, just so you know. It seems like a pretty heavy-duty plastic, but it is not Kydex. It does come with the lanyard, which I'll take off in a minute, and I'll actually put that on the knife. You can flip this entire section over to the other side of the sheath, so you can use it as right or left-handed carry. There's the clip that goes around your belt, and you can actually see I lost one of the bolts that went through. That's not any issue with the knife. That's just my fault. I didn't tighten it down enough when I actually set this up the first time. But it definitely does the job. There's your jimping to push off when you take the knife out. And yeah, it definitely does the job. I do notice that there's quite a few options out there for ESEE 6 upgrades to the sheath. I think this one's going to work just fine. But if you want to upgrade it because you're really committed to this knife, there's lots of options out there. Here's a look at the ESEE 6 sheath on my belt. And here's taking the knife out and then placing it back in. That metal clip is just the right size to fit around a rigger's belt, so that's going to be comfortable for any standard size belt up to a rigger size belt. There, once again, is the clip, and the easiest way to put it on, just kind of pull it out a little bit and then slide it over your belt like so. And that's how it's going to actually rest. Some of the details on the ESEE 6HM. End-to-end length is 11 inches, 6 inches for your blade length. Canvas micarta for the handles. You don't have any jimping up on the top here. Your thickness, once again, 0.188 inches, just like the ESEE 6. And your steel is 1095. Rockwell hardness between 55 and 57. Here's a look at the blade up close. As I mentioned before, no jimping up top. There's also no choil here. So if you want to get your hand all the way up, that's how you're going to have to actually do it. And then I'm holding back here on the handle. That's what that looks like. You are able to, as you can see though, still sharpen all the way to the edge quite easily with this knife. Here's a look at the handle. Less blocky than the ESEE 6. This is much more rounded. And then the lanyard hole, which I have already run the lanyard through. And you can see it's got kind of that curve. So it starts low, comes up a little bit, and then drops down toward the back here. And that's what it looks like in hand. Here's a look at the sheath up close. Obviously you can see ESEE stamped right there on the front, on the back, made in the USA. There's your loop. As far as your retention, I would say it's right where it needs to be. Sometimes you get a leather sheath and it's really loose. Other times it's too tight. This one is just about right for me. And here's a look at the ESEE 6HM sheath. Here's drawing the knife out and then putting it back in the sheath. A couple initial thoughts here as far as some of the differences. Weight difference, you're looking at 10.8 for the ESEE 6HM and 12 ounces for your original ESEE 6. So a little bit of a difference there. 5.75 inches for your cutting length on the ESEE 6 and 6 inches on the 6HM. So you're picking up a little bit as far as cutting length. You're losing a little bit on weight here. You've got canvas micarta versus linen micarta on your handles. Certainly a much more rounded handle as opposed to a more kind of a blockier handle. And this one's definitely got that finger guard where this one does not. Both of them have lanyard holes so you can attach lanyards to them, you know, for control, chopping, whatever you might want to do. The other thing for some people is going to be the jimping. Some people want jimping, some people don't. So there's certainly going to be a difference between the two knives right there. The other thing I want to show you quickly here is on the back of the knife. Obviously you have the red liners here on the 6 and no liners on the 6HM. So if you want a little accent, a little pop, certainly the 6 is going to be the one to go with. We'll start off and do some chopping with the ESEE 6. Quite efficient for the ESEE 6. This piece of wood is about 2 inches across. Now we'll test out the HM on the same piece of wood, just further up the branch. Now this piece of wood here is probably 1/4 of an inch thinner, but still, this thing was, it chopped quite effectively, as you saw. Certainly both of the knives did the job well. The ESEE 6HM is more comfortable to hold just because it's rounded there, as opposed to the 6, which has, just like I've said before, kind of a blockier shape to the handle. So yeah, this piece of wood is maybe a tiny bit thinner than up the branch where I chop with the ESEE 6, but as far as initial impressions on chopping, the 6HM, super comfortable. The 6 works just a little bit less comfortably when you're actually holding it like this in your hand. Okay, initial thoughts on chopping. The HM wins on this one. Those rounded handles just make a difference. Since there's not a huge difference in weight and length of the blade, a lot of the other features kind of overlap enough that the thing that sets this apart is the comfort of the handle. The 6 isn't bad, but this is more comfortable. And I would say for, basically a 6-inch blade, both of these are quite good. Considering they're not super big knives and they're not very heavy knives, they do a good job chopping if you had to use them in that fashion. Let's do a little utility work now, and we'll cut some rope with the ESEE 6HM. I've got it doubled over now, and I think this is going to be trouble for a knife like this. It's thick, and it doesn't have a huge amount of length of pull. So we'll see what we can do with doubled over. I mean, we're up over probably 1/2 inch as far as the rope at this point. So let me change the angle of the camera so we can get... So we got through one and slightly sliced the second one. But once again, through one, it's going to definitely do the job. Okay, slicing with the ESEE 6 now. Same rope. I'm going to choke up here, just try a different grip. So we'll double it over here. I think this one also is going to have some trouble just because that rope is, again, over 1/2 inch now, and just your length of pull and the thickness of the blade. Let's see what we can do here. So similarly, got through one pretty easily and started to cut the second one a little bit. So as far as a utility knife as well as something you could use in the woods, yeah, they're both going to cut rope fine. They're not going to slice through it like a razor blade, but they're getting the job done. Let's do some feather sticking, and we'll try a couple different grips. We'll start off with the ESEE 6. So I'm currently, I've got my thumb up on the jimping here and my hand just in a normal grip on the handle. Now we'll change it to a full grip on the handle. I'm going to go up to the choil here a little bit. Here's a look at the ESEE 6 work when it comes to feathers, and all the different grips were comfortable. I actually couldn't tell you which one was the most comfortable. They were all just, they kind of had different advantages, and I would use different portions of the blade, but obviously this thing is going to do just fine on some of that more detailed type work. Okay, now working with the ESEE 6HM. And this is a different section of the same piece of wood. So I basically took a piece of wood and cut it in half. So this is the other half of the wood. So it's not like it's something totally different as far as the wood, how damp it is, all those types of things. Relatively even in its how dry it is, and obviously it's the same type of wood. Here's a look at the work from the ESEE 6HM. Certainly got the feathers just as well as the ESEE 6 did. And the one thing I'll tell you is that my hand is definitely more fatigued after using the ESEE 6HM than it is using the ESEE 6 for this type of work. You're not totally limited on your grips with this compared to the ESEE 6, but I feel like you're more limited than with the ESEE 6 because you don't have that choil, you don't have the big finger guard, so yeah, my hand's just more tired after doing this work with the ESEE 6HM. And there's a look side by side. Alright, we're going to do some batoning now. We'll start off with the ESEE 6HM. Got a couple knots there. There's a knot. There's another one. If you were making like a fireboard or something, you know, this is the type of piece of wood you might want to use. There's definitely a larger piece. This is probably, I don't know, 4.5 inches across. So I'm going to push this down a little bit. So the ESEE 6HM, no problem with all that batoning. Let's use the ESEE 6 now. Once again, this is the larger piece, and we're looking at about, like I said, probably 4.5, maybe 4 3/4 inches across this. Just like the ESEE 6HM, once I get this split down far enough, I don't need to go the whole way through. I can just twist this and it'll split the wood apart. Once again, both knives did great on this test. Let's look at some of the batoning carnage. Let's wrap up now comparing the ESEE 6 with the ESEE 6HM, and I'm going to tell you who my winner is between these two knives. The first thing I'll say is you saw me use these knives on camera. I use them off camera as well, so these have been aggressively used. I didn't really hold back at all when testing out these knives, and they both have stood up in an excellent way. So whether you choose the 6 or the 6HM, I think you're going to be really happy with either one of these knives. Again, I've never used an ESEE 6 before, and after having used both these knives, I'm like, I can see why people have liked them a lot. I've used other ESEE knives and liked those, but these really excel at being a you know, an overall woods knife or an overall survival knife. Looking at the sheaths, I'd pretty much say it's a break even. I like the leather sheath, the look of it. I actually kind of like the ESEE stamped into the front there. It's quality construction. It holds the knife very effectively. The ESEE 6, if this was Kydex, I think I'd almost definitely say this gets the win. It is a good strong plastic. It's not going to break on you. I like the fact that you can flip that clip panel to the other side. And again, I noted earlier, I'm missing one of the bolts here. That's not their fault. I just, I let it fall out when I was setting it up, and I didn't put a new one in. Even with just 3 though, it works totally fine. So, you know, when it comes to the sheaths, I'd say it's a break even between the ESEE 6HM sheath and the regular ESEE 6. Moving up to the handles, I'm going to choose the ESEE 6. When it comes to chopping, the ESEE 6HM was more comfortable, but the ESEE 6 wasn't bad. It wasn't like it was uncomfortable. It was just that the HM was more comfortable for me. I think the real win for the ESEE 6 is the finger guard. Because of the size of these knives and how I'm personally going to be using them, having a finger guard is a big deal. It really allows me to get, you know, a good strong grip and use it aggressively. I wasn't scared that my hand was going to go flying up the blade, but I just didn't feel like with the HM I had as much control as I do, because my hand just really locks in on that finger guard. And then if I put my thumb up on that jimping up on the top, I just feel like I have excellent control with the ESEE 6. Again, I want you to hear me, the HM was not like terrible. But the ESEE 6 definitely wins when it comes to comfort of the handle, in particular for how I'm going to use this style of knife. For the actual blades, the ESEE 6 wins again for me. I mean, they're pretty much a photocopy of each other than the main thing, which is this choil up here. And I really like to get my hand up there if I want to do detail work. With this one, you can get your hand up close, but, you know, again, there's no finger guard, there's no real choil. So holding it like this is kind of, for me, was the most comfortable way to hold it, and I felt like the safest way. When I got up close, I was afraid my hand was going to slip up a little bit. So with that choil, I can really get in there, lock in, and do some of that finer detail work. Other than that, you know, it's pretty much an even match. I already mentioned the jimping. I do like this jimping on this knife. 95% of the time, I'd prefer not to have jimping. But again, given the knife, given the size, and how I'm going to use the jimping, I don't feel like it's going to beat up my hand really badly. It's going to allow me to lock in even more effectively. So blade, jimping, and the finger choil, the ESEE 6 wins for me on that one as well. Now, since both of the knives are from ESEE, they're ESEE 6 knives, there's going to be a lot of overlap in the construction, the steel, all kinds of things like that. So I think it's probably pretty obvious that for me, the ESEE 6 is going to be the winner. I've been really impressed with this knife. I can see now why so many people think this is, you know, one of the best production knives out there when it comes to a survival knife. Again, I want to be clear, I don't think the HM is a bad knife. It's not like I'm going to throw this away or something. But now, having used the ESEE 6 in a variety of different ways, quite aggressively, this thing's a winner. Definitely a winner. I've always liked the Ontario Rat 5 and Rat 7, but this is that middle ground as far as the size, and this thing has just been awesome to use. I don't usually say things like, this is my favorite knife of all time, but I would say this falls in the top 5 for me. This has been an awesome survival knife to use, an outdoor knife, does so many things well. So if you're ready to invest some money in a survival knife, I think the ESEE 6 is going to make you really happy. If you want something that's going to cross over to maybe a little bit more of that bushcrafter look, I think the ESEE 6HM is probably going to be a good option for you. And again, either one of these knives, they both have functioned really well for me. I want to give a big shout out to my friends over at Blade HQ who helped make this video possible. Down in that description section, if you click that Show More tab, I've got links to these knives over at Blade HQ, other ESEE knives, and they just have a ton of outdoor survival camping gear. So definitely check them out, and thank you guys for making this video possible. I got a couple more videos right there queued up for you to watch. Thanks as always for checking out the videos here on YouTube. Please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids if you haven't done so already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram and Tumblr as well. More videos coming soon. Take care.